John Coleman, MD of Advanced Turf Technology, joins us today on Turf Business TV, and we're going to talk about the Infinicut range and how that's come to market and where it's going. Good morning, John. How are you keeping up there?
Not too bad. Yeah, we're trying to keep COVID safe, like everybody else, I think. But yeah, not too bad. Today it's raining quite a bit. We've got a fair few floods going as well, so never a dull moment.
Yeah, we've all got issues to deal with at the moment. I think what we'd like to talk to you about today, as I said, is the Infinicut range, and I think where I'd like to start is a little bit about your background, because I think it's important people know that you've not come to this as a pure engineer. You've come to it from a greenkeeping background.
Yeah, that's correct. So I began my career in Borne Golf Club in Scotland many moons ago now. Basically as a greenkeeper, yeah, as on a YTS scheme. So that was back in '87. From there, I managed to fulfil my apprenticeship. Then I moved to Myerscough College for 3 years full-time study. Spent a little bit of time down in London working at Royal Mid-Surrey Golf Club under the tutelage of Bill Lyon, which was very rewarding. And then moved up to Sheffield, took on the course manager's job there at Aberdale Golf Club. I was there for about 9 years. From there, I moved into golf course construction, working alongside Robert Trent Jones, mainly based in Scandinavia. That took me through to early 2000s, through about 2010 in fact. And as you say, from there, rather circuitous route, ended up in engineering.
And not just a greenkeeper, but an award-winning greenkeeper as well.
Yeah, for my sins, I won the Greenkeeper of the Year back in 98-99, which was, I guess at that point, the Master Greenkeeper was fairly new. It was the same criteria as that. I think it was discontinued a few years after that. But yeah, I was the Greenkeeper of the Year there. And I guess that kind of helped me in my career moving forward. As I say, I moved into golf course construction and growing as well from there and set up a consultancy business. So I became an advisor. And consultancy, I think, can be not a bad word in the industry, but it can certainly split opinion. Before it's worth, I ended up doing that. And I've done that for about 10 years. And that was, you learn as much by doing that as much as you obviously, help other people as well. So yeah, it was quite an interesting occupation.
So you switched to engineering. And was that switch because you'd identified something that you could do in terms of the turf care sector, or was it nothing to do with that at that time?
So it'd be a nice linear story if that was the case, but like most people, it really didn't work like that. I don't know what your career's like, but I don't think you set off in life knowing exactly what you're going to do at each point. The truth of the matter was my family is an engineering business, and not a lot of people know this, but we got a bad debt basically, and we're a subcontract business, so subcontract for yellow goods for people like Caterpillar, JCB, second, third tier supply chain stuff. We got a bad debt, and we decided that we would like to mitigate some of that risk. And I was approached as part of the family because I'd had stuff made for me in the past, various bits and pieces, and they said, you've tend to have good ideas, John. Is there something you can help us with? And I seen a gap in the market and thought, okay, we'll start. And that was basically how it started. So it wasn't an intentional move from a business point of view directly for the business, but it was more mitigating the risk of an additional business, another business. And that was really how it started. It's not particularly exciting, but that's the truth of the matter, really.
Those first products that you identified, what were they?
So we identified a modular cassette system. We had a look at that and took that to market in a fairly quick order, about 6 months. The reason we could do that is the family business, as I say, being a subcontract business, has full manufacturing capability. So we, one of the biggest laser cutter companies in the UK, own machine shop, CNC, everything really. So we were able to do that fairly rapidly. Took that product to business, and it was successful. It was very successful very quickly. What made life difficult with that was just before the recession. So we were very successful just before the first recession. That was like kind of 2006, 2007, and then of course the recession came, and that made life difficult. But that was where we started.
I'm really interested in how you identified Infinicut as the next move for you, and what drove you to do that.
So again, that's not particularly linear either. It wasn't an epiphany at any point. It wasn't something that was said, okay, we'll do. In those days, we didn't do huge amounts of market research. It was all kind of gut feeling, mainly from my own experiences. So really, we were selling the cassette system, and it mainly came from America, actually. America, at that juncture, were still caught mainly by pedestrian mowers. And we were getting requests, basically, could we take that cassette system? Because the cassette system was made for OEM equipment, so it fits on a Toro, a John Deere, or a Jacobson triplex, for instance. And we got one request, then we got 2 requests, 3 requests, could we put it on a pedestrian mower? And at that time as well, there was only Toro had a floating head mower. It was relatively new to the market. So we've seen an opportunity for not only the cassette system in its own right, but if we could combine that with a floating head mower, we kind of thought, well, there's good potential market in that. We've got potential, business outlet. Bearing in mind that we don't need the same volume as a John Deere, Toro, or Jacobson. So, it wasn't ideas of taking over the world with it. We just thought,
Sure.
It could be quite good, and we could do that. And that's kind of where it came from, really.
I've always been interested in how you actually go from the idea to getting a thing to market. I mean, don't give us any confidential kind of insights to the business, but give us an overview of what's involved in that process of getting that mower to the point where you go, there it is, it's on sale.
That was, I guess, quite tricky. If I can go back just a little bit to the TM system. So bearing in mind,
Sure.
I had just basically a recreational interest in vehicles, cars, engines, pulling engines apart when I was younger. So nothing like an engineer. They're very different. So certainly I wouldn't purport that I was anything like an engineer. So I was very green. So what I'd done basically was I employed a lad called Tom Slater as a design engineer. He was very young. He was keen. Just recently graduated from Sheffield Hallam. And he kind of took on the sort of the CAD aspect of the situation, and it was a steep learning curve for me. So I retrained as an engineer. So for instance, I went and learned how to program laser cutters and stuff, properly. Went away, studied that type of thing, and spent an area in the factory, a particular time in each area in the factory, in the machine shop, welding various bits and pieces. So we kind of muddled through the first part of it, but there's, they say necessity is the mother of invention. So I had to do it. There was no other way around it. I had to learn how to do it and how to get it there. So the first aspect was having to learn a bit of engineering, and then try and amalgamate that with the ergonomic side of stuff and make it work. And we made lots of mistakes, Martin. There's no doubt about it. We did, if I look back on it. Of course, that's how you learn. That's how everyone learns.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we did make a fair few mistakes. In terms of the Infinicut, the Infinicut actually started off as a mechanical machine. So it wasn't too much of a leap for us, if you like. We had done the cassette system, and as I say, we'd taken that to market, and then we decided we would go with the mower. Now, bear in mind what I was saying earlier, the cassette system became successful. So we had made some money at the cassette system. I'm not talking millions of pounds or anything, but there was money there. And of course, as anybody knows, if you want to grow your business, you have to reinvest it. So what we've done is we aggressively reinvested it in the mower. And how do you get it from concept to from ideation to concept through to prototype, and then obviously get it commercial? Well, really, you have to rely on other people as well. So as much as people, many people have said, John, the creator, the inventor of the Infinicut, Certainly, I've got the idea of the Infinicut, and yeah, now I can use CAD and stuff, but at the time you have to rely on other people. So I got another couple of engineers in, design engineers. You put the ideas forward, and then we kind of work through it like that. So at that time, it was all mechanical engineering. So we used mechanical engineers. And again, going back to what I was saying, our family business had manufacturing capability. So it was very much a trial and error. You don't kind of do it that way anymore quite as much. You do a little bit. Most of it's done in CAD, but we would literally make a part, see if it worked. If it didn't, we'd test it. We'd make another part, put it together until such times as we got, a working prototype, if you like.
Sounds quite a long process, John.
It is. It was very difficult for us at the time. Don't want to bore people with the details, but because the recession hit us, we were about 70% the way through the design, and then the recession came. So there was a fair hiatus between actually getting the product completed and starting the design proper, for no other reason other than the fact there was no business out there.
Sure.
So we really had to hunker down at that point, and there was a big delay, in doing it. That delay was interesting because it was a couple of years, and we had used a pretty unique IVT gearbox for the original mower. So it's called a variable transmission. Okay, it's a toroidal sort of thing. Again, not getting into detail. And it was a very clever piece of equipment. It was through a company here called Torotrack. It was patented in bits and pieces. But interestingly, between the 2 years of the recession through, it had been discontinued. So 2 years had gone by. We had this design. We managed to complete it. We went back to the supplier of the gearboxes, and the supplier says, "I'm sorry, we no longer produce it." So we had this design. We'd sunk a lot of money into it, and just the way things panned out, we couldn't do it. So we had a big decision to make at that point. What do we do? Do we move forward with it? Do we scrap the whole project? And that was the impetus basically to go down the electric route. So again, it'd be nice to say we went down the electric route because it was our expertise, and we seen that the market was needing electric and various other things. We were kind of cajoled that way, if I'm honest. We were kind of moved that way. Certainly, the industry was moving towards it at that point. Becoming more accepted. And that was really, again, in any business, I don't care what you say. There's a lot of serendipity. That's just how things work out, and how you move different lanes and you move around. And that was really how that came about.
I think it's important, successful businesses, they adapt, and they adapt at, a pace that's right. You've obviously demonstrated that you can do that. But the opportunity for lithium power in particular obviously presented itself around that time. That's something that wasn't only important then, but it's important for the future, isn't it?
So we decided to make an electric mower. That was a challenge in itself, obviously doing that. If you consider I've been trained as a mechanical engineer, it's mechanical engineers that we've got. So we've got to go down the route of the electrics first and foremost. And of course, any product that's electrically powered, it doesn't really care where electricity comes from. So it could be a lead acid battery, it could be a lithium battery, it could be a generator, whatever. Our first mower was lead acid. That was how it was produced. And to be perfectly honest, lead acid is a half answer. It's not great. The duty cycle's not great. It's very heavy. It's cumbersome. But at the time back then, lithium was kind of out of reach, if you like, from a cost perspective. So you bring up lithium. Lithium for us, like it has with lots of different companies, transformed the mower, to be honest, because it didn't add the additional weight. You've got much more energy in a much smaller package, and the duty cycle in those lithium batteries is suited to the kind of surface area that, like for instance, a golf green's working on, or a football pitch. More kind of football pitch. Again, there's just a bit of luck in that, if you like, as well.
Okay.
That package, that size of battery, that kind of roughly that 30 amp power, is really suited to those markets. Works incredibly well. So lithium was was a big deal for us, and it helped tremendously. And lithium has come a long way, even in such a short period of time. At first, it was very, very difficult for us to actually source a supplier of a lithium battery that was suitable. And on that, the battery itself is relatively dumb, to be honest. The cells, the lithium cells, it's the battery management system is really the most important thing. Right. And that's where you have the difficulty is, can you get a battery management system that can accept the environment and the parameters with which you need the machine to work? So lithium has been a game changer for sure.
So I jumped ahead a bit there, but if we go back to bringing the first Infinicut to market, when you actually got that mower ready to show to somebody, how did you then take it? Were you working with other greenkeepers and groundsmen up until, all through the development process, or did you get something and then show them?
No, we got something and then showed it. Now, there's not many absolute new things in life, new inventions. They tend to all be amalgamations of something else. So ultimately, we are looking to produce a mower. Okay, it cuts grass. That's what we do. We make tall grass short.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good mowers out there. I often say that to people. Your John Deere, your Toros, your Jacobsons, your Baroness, your Shibora, whatever. There's not much bad stuff out there. And cutting grass has been honed for a lot of years, Martin. They're pretty good. So you're looking at what's out there. You're taking my experience of working in the marketplace, obviously. And then, like anything, you've got to find an angle. At the end of the day, there's always a commercial side to everything. So you can't just go and, neither you shouldn't just go and copy something anyway. I don't think it's ethically correct. But you're looking and you're reviewing. So we didn't particularly go to a customer at that point. What we done is we looked at other products. And any company that produces equipment will tell you the same. You don't necessarily reverse engineer the product, but you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, well, what are the beneficial features of this product? What's the key selling points? What do the customers like about it? And then you try to add to it. So you say, okay, well, we could improve that and we could improve this. The lithium side of it really is the way we describe it. It's kind of shiny, look really nice and what have you. But at the end of the day, it's the business end which is important. It doesn't matter how you propel the machine, and it doesn't matter how shiny it looks, and it doesn't matter that it runs with a phone or anything. If it doesn't cut grass, it doesn't matter. So that was the focus. And to be honest, that stays today. It's still the focus is the cut quality. So we concentrated on the machine itself, on the cut quality. I guess we it may sound arrogant. It certainly didn't. That wasn't the intention to be arrogant, but we were quite confident where we wanted to go with the machine. Yeah. Later down the line, when you take the machine out, once you've got that first iteration, then you'll get lots of feedback, and it will amaze you the different things that you don't think about, simple things. People say, I need this or I need that, and that's not quite right for us, and that's not quite right. And then you can tweak it and you can make the changes and you can do it. But the bigger companies, dealings with bigger companies, they're all about market research.
Yeah.
That can stifle innovation. If we just done everything that was out there, you may get the odd nugget, but somebody has got to come up with the ideas. You've got to put yourself out there and you've got to try and do something different. They won't all work, Martin, but you've got to come up with something. So we basically took an agronomic basis for the machine, designed it, done it, made it work, and then that last, you would say 5%. For us at the moment anyway, that's kind of where the customer comes in. And we do work very close with the customer, particularly places like, Wimbledon tennis. Neil Stubley's been, a few years ago, I was fairly arrogant going down to Wimbledon thinking, we make mowers and they can cut it 2 millimeters and stuff. This will be dead easy. And frankly, it wasn't. It was quite different, very unique set of circumstances down there. At that juncture, we take, we're very humble. We say, right, okay, what do you need? And we make it work. And of course, we've got machines in there now because we've done that. So we're not arrogant with it. It's just that was the progress for the design.
Who was the first person who actually saw the mower outside the business?
It would have been Abbeydale Golf Club, I think.
Okay.
Because obviously they're local to us. So we used them as a test ground for many years. So it would have been Abbeydale. and then probably the course next door to them, Dorn Totley. So we would test it up there, and we did a lot of it up there and stuff. So it would have been them, yeah. Warwick Manning, probably.
So you've got the mower, you've got it now to market. It took a little while to get ahead of steam up, didn't it?
It did. So the cassette system, if you consider the TM system that we produce, is primarily a golf product. So it's a golf market. If you go back to what I was saying, and I make no apology for saying it, the mowers that are out in the golf market are good. You know, they're good mowers. They all work well. We've got good relationships with all the manufacturers out there. I'm not here to rubbish anybody, any of our competitors or anything. So it's a good market. And there's lots of strong brand recognition out there and brand loyalty in the golf market. So I don't think it's any secret. You know, lots of people prefer Toro and lots of people prefer John Deere and Jacobson and that kind of thing. And it can be very difficult to get into because, you know, it's the 80-20 rule. You know, there's 80-20% people are followers, and you get that 20% of the kind of innovators, if you like. So you've got to try and grab that 20%. And even then, the brand loyalty is strong. They're comfortable. There's a dealer network there. It's been around for a long time. It's almost like for want of a better word, it's like an oligopoly. You know, it's controlled. Yeah. The market's controlled out there. And I've taken advantage of that market when I was a greenkeeper, so I'm not knocking it. You know, these companies, the tail can wag a dog. You know, these companies will design stuff, take it to market, and, you know, tell people what to do, and that's fine. So it was quite difficult to get in there. And fairly quickly, we realised that probably wasn't the route for us to go into. But we did see an opportunity in sports turf.
Okay.
The technology we could scale. And that was really a turning point for us, because what I did do with sports turf was I really did look closely at how they were maintaining sports turf and how they were cutting, and the difficulties were there. I really spent a long time on the agronomics and tried to throw away a lot of the old doctrine, if you like, that was at the time. The doctrine at the time was the machine needed to be super heavy, you know, to create a stripe, etc., and I kind of questioned that, and kind of designed the machine around an agronomic basis for sports turf and dedicated it for sports turf. So that was really how we started. Even then, it was difficult, but within any industry, and sports turf the same, you do have that 20%. You've got those innovators there.
Yeah.
You get people like your John Ledwidge, you know, was quite instrumental. He gave us a chance to get in there. I gave a talk at the Premier League, and I actually gave a talk on striping and how you get striping is not to do with weight, it's to do with quality of cut and how light diffracts and bends off grass and how you can make it work. And John was there. John called me the week after. We hadn't really gone in anywhere. And he said, look, kind of made sense to me. He says, I went on Google and I researched some of the stuff you were talking about, as John would do. He's very thorough. He said, look, I'd like to see it. And this is really how it happened. Again, it's not kind of how you would, it's not a playbook for how you get into a market, but this is really what happened. John says, bring it down and we'll look at it and we'll put it up against the competition. So they're super heavy machine, brand new, put it up against there. And he said, okay, we'll go up into the stands. We get 2 people running the machines. And I said, right, your machine's less than half the weight of that one. If what you're saying is correct and you get a better panel, you know, out of the machine and it's a better quality of cut, he said, I'll buy them. So he got a radio and he said, go. We got quarter way across the pitch, and yeah, our stripe was more superior and the cut quality was better. And I says, yeah, we'll go for it.
Okay.
Everybody needs a leg up in business. Anybody that tells you different, I think, is lying. And John is that type of innovator. So John kind of, started it off. Now, once we got one person club like that, then it started to snowball. At the time as well, we were doing quite well with Neil. Neil's very similar to John. He's an innovator, and of course we're a high technology company, so we'd suit one another. So we had Wimbledon as well, which was working very well for us, and it started to move. And I should also make a shout out for Vinny Tarbox, our sales manager as well. Vinny's quite instrumental in a lot lot of these things, getting your foot in the door. Everybody's well recognised in the industry too, and you still need that. It doesn't matter how good the product is. You need awareness. So Vinny was very good at that as well. So all these sort of things combined, but it was very difficult. I mean, now when we look back on it, it was pretty chronic to try and get in places. It was very hard. Nobody knew us, sports turf. You know, now we can walk through the front door. You know, we're invited into places now. We're seen as a, you know, I think we've got 95% of the Premier League now. You know, it's been a fantastic achievement by lots of different people.
When it did get going, it got going very quickly. But you've not sat on your hands and gone, okay, we've got a great product. You've continued to invest, develop, and improve, haven't you? I mean, you mentioned quality of cut as one of your prime drivers. What have you done to improve that since that first machine came into Leicester City there?
So we produce all our own cutting reels is a good example. We were subcontracting the cutting reel. We were never happy with the quality of that. So we invested. We designed our own machine actually. A machine for producing cutting reels really doesn't exist. You can't just, you know, look up Google, find a company that'll do it and buy one off the shelf. So we had to re-engineer it. Actually from scratch, we had to engineer our own machine for doing it and our own process. That's probably one of the most difficult things we had to do, and one of the things I'm most proud of actually. We've done that all in-house. So we done that, and then we took that a stage further, and we basically made it all CNC programmable. So our cutting reels, I believe, genuinely are probably the best anywhere in the world for accuracy. You know, they're all dynamically balanced. Everything's done to the nth degree. So real high quality in our cutting reels, and obviously that goes without saying. That's incredibly important. We made some changes to torsional rigidity and various bits and pieces through. We use, you know, stroboscopes and things like that to check oscillation and various different things. So we're very keen on that. And just latterly, we redesigned a pretty clever bed knife to reel adjuster as well, which minimises any backlashing system. So we've not kind of, you know, sat in our hands, as you say. You know, you put it well. We're still pushing very hard on that, and we believe we've got a fantastic system now that's durable and you know, and works incredibly well for us. And that's seen through our customers, you know, feedback. We are moving into golf now as well. And we're making some really good traction on that side.
Cut quality aside, there's been other improvements as well, haven't there? I mean, this kind of iPhone, smartphone world we live in, communication with machines via something that you've got in your hand all the time is important. You've introduced some changes on that front, haven't you?
Yeah, so we're doing well in sports turf. Just to go back, you know, sports turf is worked out quite well for us, not just in the UK but worldwide. But like any company, we need to expand. You know, we need expansion. We want to grow, and certainly we're continuing to grow in sports turf. But although we started off in golf and we decided that, you know, that wasn't for us at that point, we now think that golf is, you know, is feasible. We think we can go into golf now. So we looked at golf, and again, like sports turf, where we dedicated a moor for sports turf, we can't just take a sports turf moor and push it into golf. Slightly different requirements that they need, you know, cutting at 1.5 to 2 millimeters height of cut. So we reassessed all of that. What do we need to go into golf? What would make us successful in golf? And very much a lot of that sort of design was driven through the requirement for golf. Primarily, we needed things like speed control. You know, our moor before was torque control. Torque control and speed control are slightly different. So we need the machine to go at the same speed downhill as uphill. That sounds fairly obvious, but can be quite a tricky thing to do electrically. So we decided to do that, and then in doing so, we decided, look, if we're going to do that, let's just re-engineer the whole thing and put a wish list together. Our whole industry is changing fairly, I wouldn't say frantically, but it's quite quick. It's data driven now. So we looked at that as well. I thought, okay, the industry's going data, how do we make that happen? there's a lot of controllability. So people are, it's a bit like the David Brailsford thing. You know, if you go down to an Arsenal, you go down to, well, any of the Premiership clubs, to be honest, Liverpool, Leicester, it's all about nth degrees now. They're looking to gain that extra percent, the 2%. You know, I defy anybody to say any of these pitches are bad. You know, what the guys do is absolutely fantastic. You know, they're really on their game all the time. So again, we looked at it and we thought, okay, how do you make those 1% and 2% gains? And a lot of that's to do with how you can control the machine, how you can manipulate it, how you can change parameters. Our old machine, you know, you could plug a laptop into it, and I think that lasted about 2 nanoseconds. You know, somebody thought it was great, and I was like, well, I don't want to do that. I just want to do it on my phone because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So, you know, you either push against it or you get on with it. So we decided, okay, let's do that. That in turn, if you want communication with it, that pushed us into different route for design to be able to do that. So we had to go down CAN bus and various bits and pieces. And in the app, I mean, the app that people are seeing at the moment really is our basic version of the app. It's on Android just now. It comes out for iPhone next month. So it'll be on iPhone. We've actually held quite a bit of the technology in that app back. So it's innovative at the moment, and it's certainly further ahead than anybody else. But what we've actually got coming is quite really interesting for people. But it's not that we're skimming the market, but we're just waiting, we're honing it. There's various patents that we've got in, applications for various things, and you'll see some stuff coming out that's quite unique in what it can do going forward, both for golf and sports stuff. And again, it's to get those different gains that people are looking for. So we spent a lot of time making sure that the More was designed to allow this wireless interface, you know, and make it work. So it's been enjoyable doing it, but it's also been difficult, and it's certainly taken me out of my comfort zone. You know, I don't know how to write code. You know, a lot of it's software driven now, but everything's software driven, Martin. It's like a car these days, and it's durable. It is durable. I think, you know, there's been a lot of reticence with electrics and batteries and motors. It's changing. You know, it is changing. The customers are starting to realise. I think last year, you know, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, and there was over 20 billion motors sold. Okay, you know, your washing runs with an electric motor. Your car's got electric motors all over it now, and servo units. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. You know, there's no reason why we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't have confidence in it. So we designed for that. We also designed for reliability as well. Going to CAN bus helped us a lot of that. Like anything, reduce the complexity in it. The amount of connections, more reliability. You know, we're always conscious that it's a harsh environment that equipment works in our industry. So it's all very well saying that it's phone driven and what have you. It's got to be robust, and we're certainly finding that's now working for us. We've had a few tweaks to do and bits and pieces, but we're now starting to get into that as well. So we're very excited about the products going forward.
I'll touch on other future developments. You've given us the app there. I mean, if you can give us any kind of sneak previews of what the extra things might be or anything else that's coming up, I'm sure everybody would be really interested to know, whatever you can tell us.
We're contemplating, cogitating. We are working on some stuff. I think other than that, what I'll say is we have various axes of motion we can work with. Okay, so any motor that you've got on there is an axis of motion. So if you consider our new rotary mower, okay, we've got a motor that drives the traction side for your walk speed. We've got a motor that drives the deck, and we've got an actuator that can manipulate the deck up and down. So each axis of motion is something we can do. So in this industry, you make things go that way, you make them go that way, or you make them go that way generally. Yeah. So if you consider that we've got that product, now that we've got all the electrical architecture in place, now we've got the control in place because we've got the app, because that app is in its basic form is manipulating axis of motion. Okay, The customer sees it, it's changing clip rate and it's changing this and it's changing the height of cut and various things. Ultimately, it's changing the axis of motion. So we are looking now what other products that we can take and use those axis of motion for. So we've got the back end, like I was saying, I said earlier, we split them more into two areas, don't we? You've got the business, which is cutting end, but you've got the item, which is the traction unit that drives it. So you'll see probably some interesting things coming on, taking that traction unit and using other maintenance tools in front of it that we can manipulate through our phone and connect to GPS and various other things. So again, we've got various patents in for stuff. You'll forgive me for not disclosing at the moment. Exactly.
Absolutely, understand.
I mean, the other area, the way the business is going is a sort of collaborative direction as well. We've clearly got quite a bit of technology here that we've heavily invested in. So we're looking at a collaborative approach as well with some different companies, that type of thing. So you may see some of our technology ending up in different things, a bit like the car industry. You know, the car industry,
sure,
platforms, engines, that type of thing. And there's no reason why this industry can't do the same thing, obviously. So we've got some ongoing conversations going there as well. So there may or may not be, but it's positive at the moment. Some things happening. But yeah, the way the world is at the moment, the way business is, I think you do have to be flexible, and you've got to, in your direction and where you're going. But we won't be stopping basically in our investment.
And you won't be stopping just in the realm of mowers for turf care. You'll be looking at other maintenance applications as well, if I'm reading that correctly.
Quite, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's true what they say in greenkeeping and turf, isn't it? Look after the soil and the grass will look after itself. That's a truism that still holds true. So at the moment, our mowers generally, we're like the gloss paint in a Formula One car. We've given the finishing touch and certainly to the plant. We will probably start moving maybe towards doing some other things.
Moving towards other things. I mean, you've moved towards other markets in terms of cutting machinery, not just in the UK, but I'm talking internationally. There's been a real presence in Europe that's gained, and I think you mentioned earlier that you might be looking at investing heavily in the Asian market as well. Can you tell us how that's going and where you plan to go with it?
Yeah, so like most companies, when you've got new product out, you're kind of trying to keep it close to home for obvious reasons. So this business was, for the last 4 or 5 years, a big element of it was brand building. Okay, like we were saying earlier, it was very difficult for us to get into venue, because we weren't particularly well known. I think it's fair to say the Infinicut brand now is a strong brand. It's good. That's worked tremendously well. It's gone in our home territory with the Premier League and various other areas, Wimbledon's of the world and cricket that we're in. So naturally for us, we need to expand, and we've done a little bit of that in Europe in venues. So we're looking to expand certainly further into Europe. So the obvious, you don't need to be a brain surgeon to work it out. We're looking at those various leagues, your La Liga, the Serie A, the Bundesliga, areas like that to move into. But further afield, we think the Indian market's a good market for us. So we've been collaborating and signing up partners in various regions. So India, the Middle East, we're strong in. We've put quite a number of product in there for the Qatar World Cup, for instance. But we're moving into other areas of the Middle East. Australasian market is another obvious area for us. So we're pushing into areas like Thailand, Korea, basically China, Hong Kong, and it's only now that we're really able to do that because the brand's so strong. It's incredibly pleasing when we make contact or someone makes contact with us that they recognise us. That people want to be associated with the brand. That comes with responsibility, of course. We've got to make sure that brand is up to task, and it's fit for purpose, and obviously that's a big play for us. So yeah, we're moving at a fair pace into these different markets. So you'll start to see it much broader scope, going forward.
I think another example of British expertise in turf care being recognised internationally. The groundsmen are being taken abroad. Our products seem to be gaining a foothold globally. This is an interview that I've wanted to do for a little while now, John. So thank you for taking time out of what is quite obviously an extremely busy time for you, all the things you've got spinning there at the moment. And we really do wish you well for the future for this, and we look forward to seeing the success that you reap over the coming years.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thanks, John.